Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Talent League podcast, Behind the Talent. I'm your host for today's first episode. It's going to be me, Gollymolu, and I am joined by a good friend of mine, Pyro R6. Good afternoon. It's afternoon, right?
19 minutes after the afternoon, you could say.
Lovely. And we have a very special guest with us this week. We have Uknow. And, Uknow, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hey guys, as you know, I'm Uknow. I'm the analyst for Laburnum Gaming in the Talent League major part, and I don't know what to say.
Well, that's wonderful news. So, very quickly, before we jump into this, how long have you been the analyst for this team, and what other stuff have you done in the past?
I mean, let's start with the past. I was a player for 2 years now. I played in several leagues, win a few, and for analysting, I've become an analyst in like now for 7 months, I think. Started with a smaller Italian team, then moved on to this best team in the world, basically. So yeah, I would say, I'm happy with at the moment where I am, and with 7 months on my back with these guys, it's a journey of mine.
What inspired your change then from going from the player side of things to jumping onto the analyst to help behind the guys?
To be honest, as a player, I'm not as good as I should be, and as concepting my age. And I decided that I'm really good with Excel and all basically the informatics stuff. And I wanted to help teams to get a better understanding of their enemies or themselves and all the needed stuff. And I decided to become an analyst for that reason. And then I started with a team who basically we decided to rotate me to a sub. And then we decided I become their analyst. And then it moved on from there.
I think we're all of us here as not players anymore know the feeling of being a bit washed up and deciding to go into other aspects before you get kicked out of against your will. So we get the feeling on that one. But very quickly, before we jump too far into other things, Pyro, how would you summarize the games from this week's major division in the Talent League?
The major division, it was a very interesting week. We had some very good games and some very upsets. But we will start from the top of the game with the first game from the last weeks, which was the QVG versus Vega Esports, if I remember very well. And for that game, it was a 2-0 victory for Vega Esports. You could say the predictions were correct on that one. I'm pretty sure most of the staff alone voted for the side of Vega Esports. If you need a recap on this week, which is actually the goal of this segment at the moment, it was on Chalet and Border. So we did actually see Border, which I was very happy for, especially when I casted the game. And the first game was actually on Chalet, and that was a 7-5 victory for Vega Esports, so a very close game. And that was actually QVG's map. And the bans for that map, if you would need to know here, Jackal, Cade, Thatcher, and Aruni. So I actually did like those bans when they came out. The Aruni was an interesting ban. Cade, Thatcher, and Jackal, you could say, pretty much expected on that sort of map. And then for Border, which was even closer game than a 7-5 victory, was an 8-6 victory for Vega Esports for QVG's map, of course. And that was Maverick, Smoke, Castle, and I believe that was Cade as well, which was, those bans. I was pretty surprised and taken back when those bans actually came out. What are your thoughts on those sort of maps there, those sort of bans that came out and that actually result?
I mean, after our first game against Vega Esports, I didn't expect them to beat anyone at all, in my opinion. Like, against us, they really didn't do anything that would tell me that they're the team that's worth to play in the major division. But after they beat QVG on Border 8-6 and also Chalet 7-5, despite the fact that QVG is in a really deep spot at the moment because they making roster changes and all that stuff, it was a surprise for me as well. And the bans, I would say, for Border, I think the knock ban was a partially target ban, because we played it against them and it didn't really work out for them at the end of the part, because I think it was Spliss who got 3 kills against them, almost 3 or 4 rounds in. And I think they hate Nook now.
Yeah, definitely. I think Nook might be a target ban for most the entirety of the season, especially.
Yeah, probably.
Probably, based off what your analysis is from there. But going on to game 2 of week 3, we had Vivid United versus Maestro Esports. Now, for this game, it was a 2-0 victory for Vivid United, and that was on Skyscraper and Border again. So, for the second game in a row, we had Border, which you wouldn't expect that much. Obviously, it is a new map coming into the map pool, but I didn't expect this many teams to be playing this map. So it was definitely a surprise. But going on to the actual scores and the bans. So the first map was obviously Skyscraper, and that was a 7-3 victory to Vivid. The bans for that map were Thatcher, Cade, Finker, and Wamai. I definitely think the Finker there was a target ban. Also, Finker's pretty much a very influential player when coming onto every attacking-sided map. On Border, it was an 8-6 victory, so a lot of close games in the Major League this week. So for that map, we had an Osa, a Mirror, a Maverick, and a Mute ban. Osa definitely favoured on Border, long angles to watch, and a lot of different places you can definitely use that Osa shield. Same question again, based on this map. What are your thoughts with Vivid United and Maestro?
I mean, Maestro coming in as the replacement of NGG, I think they can be a good team. I don't know them, haven't even seen them play in at all, because they just got picked up before the season, I think, before the season started around March by Maestro. And also on the other hand, we have Vivid United, which are basically, as I heard, they're majorly playing ranked strats, and probably on Skyscraper that's why the Finker ban came out. And also on next map Border, probably that's why the mute ban, or they just trying to copy us with our mute ban as well. I don't know. And I think the Skyscraper and Border duo as map pool and map wise, I think this was great, because Vivid is basically favored on a lot of maps which doesn't require heavy shredding, and I think these two maps are those two, especially when you don't need to shred at all, because it's a new addition to the map pool for almost all of the teams, I think, because none of the teams are playing since year 1, because Border was in year 1. And I think not much team prepared these maps, and they just trying to avoid them, I guess. But I think with Maestro picking it, they might have prepared something, that's why 8-6 came out, but I'm not sure whether it was intentional or not intentional to play these two new maps. And on the ban wise, I mean, these are pretty default bans on both maps, except the Finka and the Mute. But pretty much that's my summary on those two, and yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you with that Border and Skyscraper ban being that new sort of map, being new to the map pool. It's definitely more of that insider pick, you'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe the teams don't understand how to play each one of them, so you can maybe catch them out. And that's the thought process behind these teams here. But going on to game 3, the midway point of this week, we have Humble Academy versus Ultrac Esports. And that was a 2-0 victory for Ultrac Esports. The maps were Skyscraper and Clubhouse. So yet again, we're going to Skyscraper, using the new map pool for their advantage here. And that was a 7-5 victory on Skyscraper to Ultrac. That's still a very close game. And that was Thatcher, Valkyrie, Maverick, and Cade coming out on that the actual operator bans there. So yeah, again, very default. Valkyrie is a good operator to ban on that site. A lot of places you can put sneaky cams, especially with the amount of soft destruction that is on that map. When playing on sites below, you can get free nitros. Going on to Clubhouse, more of a staple map in the comp pool, and that was a 7-5 victory to Ultrac Esports. So 7-5, 7-5, very close games for that map. And that turned out to be Hibana, Cade, Thatcher, and Valkyrie. So Valkyrie being banned for both of the maps, as well as Cade and Thatcher. So the only differences there would be the Maverick and Hibana ban, 2 hard breachers. So, same question again, obviously as the analyst for a major team, what is your thoughts on the Humble Academy and Ultra Esports game?
I mean, to be honest, we know that Humble Academy is not the best team in the league at the moment, but we thought that maybe Ultra will be the same on the same level as Humble Academy, because last season as Hyperion 5, I believe they were, they didn't really show anything special, to be honest. They finished 6th, I believe, and that's why they're still in the league. But after last week's result against Machine Soldiers with a 2-0 victory over them on Oregon and Chalet, I didn't expect them to be honest, to win against Humble. Because I think on power rankings, I would say Humble is better than Ultrac at the moment with the players and the skill level. But since Ultrac is playing together for a really long time now, because they've been together for like, without the new roster changes, I think they were together for like 2 years now. And they are really strong in team cohesion and also like with playing well with each other. I think these results are not surprising at all, because like Skyscraper and also Clubhouse is like really good maps, as I said before. And with the default bans coming out, both maps, these are really default bans, where you can all see these bans in also Pro League matches or smaller T4 leagues. And I think, yeah, it was a really big surprise for Ultrac to win these 2 maps this good.
It definitely gave them a lot of points going into the next sort of weeks, pushing them up this leaderboards. But going on to the 4th game, this is between LFO, who is now Laburnum Gaming. Correct me if I'm wrong, and by the way, I've said that, or no. But
yeah, your pronunciations are infamous. It's lovely. We love you for it. But there's been a couple, we all love a good bit of Aurora Esports.
Aurora Esports. Oh.
What was the other one? There was another one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But don't worry. Machine Shoulders. Yeah, that was good.
It's gonna get even
we'll
worse now. So thank you. So
yeah, I mean, your
Go
pronunciation was almost good, but it's a bit slower. It's like Laburnum Gaming.
Laburnum Gaming. Okay. So that was Laburnum Gaming versus Praetorian, and that was a 1-1. So the first draw for this week in Major League, and that was on Villa and Chalet. So 2 very staple maps, you could say. 2 maps that I like personally as a player when I did actually play. Now I'm a caster, obviously. 2 good maps to cast. So the first map was on Villa, and that was a 7-4 victory to Praetorian. And the bans for that were the Flores, the Pulse, the Thatcher, and the Cade. And then for going on to Praetorian's map, that was on Chalet. And that was an 8-6 victory there for Laburnum Gaming. So an OT victory to secure the 1-1 draw there. And that was with Ace, Valkyrie, Thatcher, and Cade. So, obviously because this is the team that you are working for as an analyst, can you take us through the thoughts on that game, how your team performed?
To be honest,
yeah,
we didn't want to go for Villa because we do not feel comfortable at the moment on it, and accidentally I did the map bans, and I accidentally thought that I will be banning and I accidentally picked Villa, but yeah, we prepared something else, but I can't say it at the moment. We will see it next match, maybe. And we prepared something totally else than Villa. We haven't even scrimmed it this week. And yeah, we went into Villa and we got actually pretty beaten on it. Probably, I mean, the boys didn't feel good on playing Villa. And yeah, that's why we lost. I mean, coming into the game, especially, we felt like we have an advantage over them because they do not have support stuff, as I know. And we prepared a really good analytics of them. And also we might or might not have counter-threaded them a bit. Unfortunately, we didn't do Villa. It shows on the scoreboard. And yeah, and in Chalet, I mean, the boys made it clutch, becoming 8-6 coming into the match. And I mean, I was so proud of them because they did a huge comeback, both in game and also in mental. Because their mental was a bit unstable in the Chalet match after the Villa, and in mental they came back super strong after winning, I think, 2 rounds in a row or 3, actually, to make it 6-6. And yeah, I mean, over the bans, I would say we have really unique bans with the Flores, the Ace, and the Pulse. And I mean, the Valkyrie is the default ban in Chalet. But Praetorian made really, really default bans with the Thatcher and Kate. They do this all over this. They play in a small Spanish league, I think. I'm not sure whether it's an official Spanish league or not, but they play in it and they do the same bans almost every map. So we prepared well for it. And yeah, I mean, Praetorians are basically last year's QVG, I would say. It will be a good rivalry against them.
You could definitely expect Praetorian to ban those default bans, then you could base and strat for your game there. So definitely a big decision. And I'm looking forward to where you two finish up in the league this year. Now, for the final game of the majors, this was between Machine Soldiers and Loud Esports. This is a game that myself, and my friend Golu here did cast, so we do have the most knowledge on this game. The first game was on Chalet, and that was a 7-4 victory towards Machine Soldiers there, with the mirror and a no ban for... So there was only one ban for the attacking team there, which we were very confused of at the time. I think they just completely forgot to ban any sort of attacker there. We thought it was trolling, but who knows at this point.
I think it was a misban, because they did say oopsie in chat.
Yeah, they did say oopsie.
Look, I don't claim to be a detective, all right? And it's not something that while I consider myself a very deductive person, I can sort right from wrong, I can figure everything out. That one escapes me a little bit. It must have been I'm expecting they would have gone for the ban on Thatcher, because that's what they banned on their next map. But
how did they use Thatcher in that game? You remember going towards on the roof. Maybe they were just strategically thinking, oh, we have Thatcher. We know it's going to be very easy to clear these shields, to clear the utility off the walls. Going on to the second map of Villa, and that was a 7-4 victory for Loud Esports. A very dominant performance on the attacking side. And the map bans for that were Thatcher, Valkyrie, the Mirror, and the Flores. So, your thoughts?
I mean, to be honest, after last week's performance from Loud, I didn't expect them at all to even win rounds against MS, because MS is I wouldn't say a really good team, but they have really good gunners on them.
Yeah.
But without an IGL, they aren't that good, since Dan left them, and they do not replace him with an IGL. I think they replace him with Fragger, I think. And after the first map on Shadi, 7-4 at MS, I wouldn't thought that Villa will be any different. But after a few rounds, I saw that Loud began to regain consciousness from the last game against Praetorian, and began to basically build themselves back up and win rounds. And it was a surprise for me as well that they won Villa, but it was expected, maybe, because that's their best map possible. They've beaten us last season there as well, and yeah, I mean, they did the same things as they did last season, so I wouldn't be surprised if they would favor Villa a lot on the upcoming matches. But for map ban, operator ban wise, I saw that no ban from Machine Soldiers on Charlie. I think that was a tactical ban, since Loud likes to ban Flores all the time. No. And they knew that. And they just used the chance to play Thatch on Charlie, which is a quite decent thing to play, because it's really overpowered on Chalet, because you have to open a lot of walls and you have to deny a lot of gadgets, for example, to burn the shield in Piano.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And on Villa, it's just like default bans. I wouldn't say anything to that, but yeah.
Now, Golu, going on to the minor games, a bit more of an easier sort of say on that.
Yeah, well, we had 4 games get played this week. The Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs versus Atten Esports was played, but will have to be replayed. The date for that has not been set, but you'll be able to find out on the Twitter when that's happening and when we're going live with that one. So make sure you keep followed up on today on the Twitter account. But the other 4 games. Now, we had, 3 games were a little bit one-sided. One a little bit closer, could have gone either way towards the end. Invictum took out YOD Esports 7-2, and that was over on Oregon. And we had another 7-2. That was in our Goldinis versus Guardians Alpha game on Clubhouse, slightly different map, but still a very similar story of one team well, just having the upper hand when it came to those last-minute executes. The other two games were also both played on Clubhouse. So if you were a fan of the die-hard maps, the Oregon Clubhouse duo, you were in luck with this week's minor games as well. Nerf Minor took a 7-3 victory over Aura Esports, and the closer game was Visu taking down Lawless in a 7-5 fashion. Any of the games from the minor league stand out to you specifically here, or is it not something that you were particularly paying your mind to until it comes closer to those playoffs?
To be honest, I think probably the two contender teams won their games, like Visu and Goldinis. Visu is a Finnish National League team.
Yep.
And coming into minor league, I don't know what happened there with them not being able to win their games, or I don't know. I know their coach, he's a good coach, and I mean, he can lead them to victory. And I think, on the other hand, Goldinis is the possible winning stack, because it has a lot of veterans from last season's Talent League and also Titan Series.
Yeah.
But as I heard, Untitled Esports is quite impressive and good, so they might contest the top two, from my predictions, and yeah.
So it's Atom, Visu, and Goldinis your take on the ones to keep a little bit of an eye out for. Maybe you'd expect to be creeping up into the Major League next season then.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think that's a risky bet. No one's gonna fight you over that one. Well, that is everything for our wrap up. 9 games played, 1 played but has to be replayed at a later date, and this will be a good opportunity to just fill your brains in on potential roster moves. We've had not too many from the Major League. Vivid United picked up Smokey as new owner and staff. But that's about it for the Major League. Most of the other teams feeling comfortable where they are, and you want to build up that synergy, right? You don't want to change your roster around too often. I mean, what are your thoughts into this? Obviously, you sometimes have to make a roster change, but do you ever have how do you know when you want to make the change or when you might need to make a change?
I think when you have players and also staff with your team, you have to keep track of things that is needed to perform good, such as map statistics, player statistics, strat statistics.
Yeah,
nice, and also everything that is needed to win. For example, let's say in real life they have mental struggle or they have depression, and you have to keep control of that as well, and you have to help them. But
of course.
If someone is lacking, you will see it on for example, on your Excel sheet as a analyst, and you need to contact them, whether it's something with them in real life or something within game. For example, the playstyle didn't fit them, the role doesn't fit them, and something like that. And after you try to help them, of course, and after a while, if it's still lacking, you have to talk to the player again, whether he is doing his job on getting it better or not really. If it's the second that he is not really doing anything to get it better, then of course the roster change is needed. But on the other hand, if someone, for example, from the game, let's say they played the game for 5 years and he couldn't succeed that much, and he burns out, you need to also see that. If someone is starting to burn out, and you need to get the roster changes in. But I wouldn't say that roster changes are an immediate needed things at the moment, because you have to build up synergy, as you said, and with roster changes, you lose a lot of synergy, because for you bring in a whole new player who haven't played with anyone yet, and you have to build up a trust and all that stuff. And if you want to win things, that's not the best move, to be honest.
Well, we saw a couple players more moving around in the minor league. So in the minor league, we saw Invictum losing 4 of their players. They lost Venoms, Discount, Shock, and Noxy. They did pick up Hedgehog, and they should have some more players coming in to fill those missing spots in their ranks. Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs then cut everyone apart from their captain, Jerry, and added Venoms, Discount, and Shock. So the previous Invictum players, that core synergy, like we talked about being important, still staying together, and then adding Den into the roster, So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of rebuilds them, right? Because you have the idea of a 3 core member of the team, which you see in the higher levels of playing, right? You look at Pro League, teams will keep a core fundamental of players who will be able to have that synergy together and then incorporate players into that style. So, Pyro, what are your thoughts on this one here? Do you think Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs, do you think they'll start to embody a little bit more of the old Invictum style of gameplay where they're playing with those 3 as the core, or are they going to start from scratch, do you think?
I think they play with those 3 players at the core. A very aggressive style that we saw, especially as Discount was such a big player for them in this week's minor. Obviously getting the MVP, going 14, 15 kills in a game on that Oregon game. So I think it's definitely going to be built around Venom, Discounts, and Shock. Obviously, as Venom's coming in as the new captain, will start to shape that stylistic play that we did see from Invictum Gaming, though. What's going to be interesting is how Invictum, with the people that they bring back into the roster there, along with Hedgehog, how they will build around their players. Will they continue with the aggressive style that we saw from their previous players? Or will we start to see a more passive-aggressive style with the new sort of players coming in? And how they will adapt.
Yeah, are they going to embody that sort of aggressive, go for the throat nature, and they're going to join in on the bandwagon of fun, or are they going to be sort of the leash that maybe Invictum needed just to kind of find that pattern of consistency and a little bit more sustainability in their play, where you don't want to be giving up like silly rounds that we saw in our last game, right? The Goldini's Guardians Alpha. If Guardians had been a little bit more clinical there, then I think that's what they're missing, right? It's just something like that, some sort of way to anchor them down. And whether Invictum are looking for more aggression, I guess we'll have to see how it plays out, right? Because the players that they're adding in, or I should say, the players from Invictum who are moving on to Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs, whether they are supported to just go in harder, whether you see things like the Dokkaebi come out, that could always be a laugh. But only time will tell. You have to wait till our next play date to find out.
Maybe next podcast we'll talk about that. What will be the issue is whether they're given the freedom to do what they want, or whether they put on the leash, as you were just saying there. Yeah. But that wraps up the weekly transfers for this week. Now going on to the weekly league news. So, for my first time, the team of recognized talent here, who was represented by LFO, have now sold, and as we were talking about there, Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs, who picked up that Invictum roster. Your thoughts on how they were going to do? We just touched on it earlier, but any sort of more in-depth views on where they'll stand up in the league standings in the minor league?
It's a difficult one when you're looking at how many games have already been played, right? Like they missed their game from this week is being replayed, and they're currently sitting 6th in the leaderboard at the moment. So there's definitely an opportunity where if they can kind of re-find their strength, they can regroup around this new core that they have. I don't see a reason why Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs can't push towards the top, but I think it's going to be quite hard to push out the teams that are currently at the top of the leaderboards. You're looking at VSU, who've now had a couple good games under their belt after a little bit of a rocky start. They found their footing very well. Nerf Minor looked like they're going from strength to strength with how they're taking some of these games. I think it's gonna be hard for them to claim up to those top spots with how many games they have left to play.
I think they've only got 4 or 5 games remaining in this season, so it'll be good to see where they do, how they will do on that replay from this week or last week, as you said, and how they will build upon it. Just a little quick tip note that I actually forgot there: the people that are actually playing for Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs played with Team Invictum and Machine Soldiers from the previous season. So a very good built roster that they will be acquiring. It's just how they will gel together. I think that's the main issue. Now on to the next league news topic. We're going from the team formerly known as LFO or Wii Sports from last season have been picked up by Laburnum Gaming. I am very sorry about my pronunciation. It's something we will all get very used to during the next sort of cast. I think I actually need an English lesson, so I will go through that in my own time. But Laburnum Gaming, as they will represent the team in the major leagues. And this is where I actually wanted to bring in Uknow to talk more about this.
I mean, we got that. We are basically LFO from last season end in the Titan series stuff.
Yeah.
And we got eventually picked up by familiar Agfas. and it's a really good org, and we set the contracts and all that stuff. Unfortunately, Kaio couldn't come with us for other reasons, but we will have news on the new coach in like I think 2 or 3 days now. But yeah, I think at the moment we're at a really good home. We're going for a boot camp in August. Also, we're going for LAN in July, and yeah, we will have some maybe spicy media days in June. I'm not sure.
But yeah, going on to the final topic before we go into any sort of extra questions that me or Golu, or even Uknow has for us, is going on to what's going to be happening for week 4 here, Golu. Now, can you go over the stat predictions for this week?
So in our minor league next week in the upcoming matches, Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs versus YOD Esports. Well, that's already been a forfeit for Barney's Trusted Dinosaurs, so looks like we're not going to be seeing how they're finding their footing just yet. We'll have to wait till week 5, which will put another loss on their scoreboard, and that will hit their round differential quite heavily as well. So whether they can bounce back from that, well, you're going to have to come back for week 5 to see. Aten Esports versus Visu, and that one, well, the staff seem to have a lot of faith in Aten Esports. A little bit of a close one, though, and I personally have a feeling that Visu might be able to edge it out. I believe Aten did win when they played against each other within the qualifier, but you never quite know how these things are going to play out, right? There's always an opportunity for some upsets to happen. Game number 2, that'll be on the 11th of May, Lawless versus Nerf Minor. And, well, Nerf Minor, they have an overwhelming advantage here, right? Uncooked obviously went for Lawless because he's an underdog merchant.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of those games where you have to just go with Nerf Minor, right? You're looking at the season history, Lawless kind of struggling around that midfield. They are just shy of that top 4 spot, but they haven't quite been able to break forwards against some of these stronger teams. They lost to Visu last week. Visu just jumping ahead of them because of that win. And Nerf Minor, one of these teams that I would argue are looking the most consistent within the minor league in terms of how they're performing on a game-to-game basis. So I don't see a way that they sneak in. The interesting one for me will be seeing Team Invictus versus Goldinis. Goldinis currently top though, right, Pyro? And
yep. But joint top, you could say.
Yeah, but they're ahead on round differential at the moment.
Yep.
And it's interesting because their last game that we saw on Friday, they won because they had some luck cleaning up these end rounds. Like they were very good in the clutch.
Yeah. I think that was mainly not them good in the clutch, but a misplay from the other team, you could say. It was that they had the win in the gunfights, but some of those rounds, if you guys want to check out that Friday game for more details. But it was very close, and I think it should have gone the other way, that game. I think Goldini's definitely got away with a steal. They did go up 4-2, didn't they? On the defensive side, then won 3 of their attacks.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. So it should have gone. I think it should have been 4-2 the other way. If I was being honest, if they clutched out each of those rounds, it could have been a very different story.
Yeah, the staff vote is still very much in their favour, with Invictus not having the best season so far, and with these changes to their roster, losing 3 of their players, or 4 of their players, sorry, I should say. You know, it's going to be difficult for them to get off to a good start. I think, well, you know, there's this idea of the honeymoon phase, which you see teams go through. I feel like Goldini's being your first game, a team who are, you know, a little bit ranked-esque. They swing from tree to tree. They are the monkeys of the league, in my opinion, and they are very good at taking these gunfights against you. I think a newly formed team might struggle. The staff vote reflects that, with only 1 member voting in favour of Invictus. So, a little bit one-sided. And we finish things off on the 13th of May with Team Aura against Team Guardians Alpha, and again, Team Aura. Big swing in the vote for this game. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm not quite sure what to make of that matchup.
Guardians Alpha are above them on the leaderboards.
Yeah.
By 1 point. So it's going to be definitely one of those games which is very hard to predict. But if I had to say anything, the way that Guardians Alpha have been playing, the way that I've seen them be playing, I actually think they may edge it out here. It's either going to be a very close 7-5, 7-4 kind of game, or a 6-6, which we see quite a lot happening in minors, so it could be a draw. But that is the minor league week 4 predictions. Now going on to the major league. This is the one where we can have a bit more input from our guest here. So for the first game, we have QVG versus Ultrac Esports. And for that game, we have for the predictions from the staff, it's going to be, a full house for QVG there. I mean, there's no one voting from the side of Ultrac Esports there, which is quite, I don't know if it's surprising because they are very close on the leaderboard. I thought this would be a lot closer game.
I mean, to be honest, I think the staff is quite one-sided on that matchup. After seeing last week's results against Humble, I wouldn't say that QVG will beat fully Ultrac. I would say maybe a draw might come out or a 2-0 for Ultrac, because at the moment QVG doesn't have the needed synergy in order to win games. They had that last season and they dominated everyone, but now I don't think that they will dominate the league like last season. So I think this is a really one-sided prediction with probably a lot of else coming out.
It will be, as you said, definitely a close game for that side. So going on to our day 2 match, that will be Humble Academy versus Loud Esports. Now for the staff predictions, that is for Humble Academy to win by 6 votes to 2. What are your thoughts on that game, Golu? Will it be as one-sided as the staff vote, or will it be a much closer game, or even the opposite of what we think?
I think with the way that best of 2s are set up, right, in that if you win your map and lose your opponent's map, or vice versa, sometimes you win your opponent's map and can't quite win your own. I think there's always the thing where a draw is on the cards, but I'm surprised that it's so in favor of Humble Academy to take it. I think Loud definitely showed some weakness in last week's games, but they didn't look... They looked good on the maps they knew. I honestly think the most likely outcome of this match is a draw. I think Humble will win their map and Loud will win theirs. The ban phase not allowing Loud to cut out enough weakness, I think. But when they know what they're doing, they look strong, they have a game plan around it. They're a good team. So, yeah, I think that would be a draw, but we'll have to see, I guess.
Quite a few. It's hard.
I feel like it's a bit of a cop-out calling a draw, right?
Yeah. You kind of wish as viewers, as people, you want to see which team will win which side. So it's hard to say. It is very, very hard to say. But going on to our midweek match here, we've got Vega Esports versus Maestro. I actually said that correct for once. Now for that game, I think it should be a Vega victory here. Not too much of a prediction. Obviously, Maestro being towards the bottom of the leaderboard here, so it could go anyway. But a lot of the staff are actually voting for Maestro here, Golo. So maybe a surprise.
Possibly. I mean, this is another one where I'm not quite sure what the idea is here, right? I think Vivid have shown that they're clearly quite strong, so I'd be more interested to see what you know. What's your take on this? Are the staff just on that Maestro on the copium there? Like, I don't quite get what they're all on. I don't know why I said Vivid earlier. I meant Machine Soldiers, but I feel like you should back the team that's consistently at the top.
So my thoughts on the Vega Maestro match is like it's a French classical duo. Like, as I heard on the Games Assembly 2022, they beat each other. Maestro beat Vega hard, as I heard. And as I heard, Vega finished something like 25th out of the 50 teams. And Maestro finished, I think, 15th. I'm not sure whether this is correct or not. But they finished really good places in both. But I think after we saw Vega and Maestro play, I think Maestro is possible to take the W over Vega, because they have a lot more synergy and also constructionness in their attacks, rather than Vega when they're just literally they're going one by one without a lot of drones, because they waste a lot of drones in prep phases and also mid round. And I think after seeing Vega facing us the match, And also after QVG's match, I'm not sure, but I think Vega will lose it. So I totally back the whole staff team up with the Maestro pick.
Maybe Maestro can upset and definitely beat towards Vega Esports there. But going on to the fourth map, this is between Laburnum Gaming and Machine Soldiers. So, this is one of the maps where we want to ask you and let you take the lead for this.
Machine Soldiers picked up a brand new lineup, basically with, I think, 1 or maximum 2 players from last Titan Series Titan Series finals. And I mean, we beat them there as well, 3-1 after the flak on coastline, but we knew that was coming. As soon as they picked it, we knew that we're gonna lose it because we didn't like to play coastline at all. And I think this matchup will be a good matchup though on the Thursday. But I totally back the staff team up with the majority of the predictions voting for us. Of course, I'm a bit biased, but yeah, of course. But I think it's relatively realistic that they vote for us because at the moment Machine Soldiers don't have an IGL, and as I heard from a few sources out there, they play not all strats, but basically one per side strat, so they use them over and over. And also they don't have an IGL, so they do default stuff on attack. And with us, it won't be enough, to be honest, because at the moment we're aiming to go for CL in 1.5 years. So we're preparing for every possible thing, and we're developing our basically T3 ready playstyle against in scrims and also against in Talent League against our opponents. And I think this might be a really good matchup though, because Gunners versus Gunners is always a good matchup.
Yeah.
But in the end, I think we will come home with 3 points.
Yeah, and that's fair enough, right? Like you're looking at, I think we saw in the most recent game that Machine Soldiers played against Loud just last night, or as of recording last night.
Yep.
It was, I mean, probably you'll probably be able to test this, right? But it was like when they knew what they were doing, they were very good at executing on it. But like you're highlighting here, like they don't have that sort of adaptability and that leadership quality within the server, where specifically on Villa, when you're looking at the way that Loud were playing and Loud had the multiple ways of trying to challenge onto what Machine Soldiers were setting up, they're different ways of attacking bomb sites. If that change came through from Loud, there was no adaptation. There was no change up. It was more of a, I guess we'll take a gunfight over here instead of over here. And it didn't quite seem to fall into place for them. Chalet did a good job. So I think the trick for playing against Machine Soldiers from this season is just making sure that you have your solid fundamentals, but then can use those fundamentals to adapt, right? And adaptability is key.
Yeah, adaptability definitely the main thing is. Yeah, I think you touched up on it very nicely there. When they did start to change their attacks Loud, I don't think Machine Soldiers actually adapted. I think they were just basically saying, oh, we have these basic strats here that we predict them to go to, but if they change them, the fact that we don't have an IGL, what you mentioned, is probably playing into why they can't adapt. So definitely some key notes here going into next week.
Do you think, want to get your thoughts on this, right? Do you need to change a player to bring in someone who has that IGLing experience, or does someone from the team need to step up and take on that mantle? Even if because you might not have someone who's particularly comfortable doing it, but you'll learn over time, right? What if you're in their situation, which path do you prefer to go down?
To be honest, there is 2 ways to go, or actually 3, because in the first hand, you either switch a player or an IGL. That's the basic thing that most of the teams do.
Yep.
But I can bring up an example for the second part, which is Makers, who don't really have an IGL, but they have a main person who decides whether they do it or not. They do a thing where all 5 people are involved in making the decision, and only Akui, or the entry for Makers, has the final say in what they are doing.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really good that's a really good thing to do, because with 5 hats instead of 1, you can really do a lot of adaptations. And on the other hand, what you said, that maybe someone should step up, I can bring my own example up, as I'm not a good IGL, but for the most part of my player career, we did not have a good IGL, and sometimes a shot caller needs to step in and say what's up, and that was my part when I was playing, which was shot calling, and that's basically mini IGLing, I would say. And I think, as you asked the question whether they should pick up someone or just basically teach someone to do it, I would say basically if you feel that they are capable of doing it, then teach him. If you don't feel that he's ready for it, then try and look for someone, or try look for someone in the team who maybe has the hidden talent. So yeah, that's my point of view on that one.
What do you want to take us through the last one here, Pyro?
Yeah, we got Vivid United versus Praetorian here, and I think for the actual staff vote, it's pretty one-sided towards Praetorian there.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any sort of grievances against that one, although it is first versus second place, so you could make an argument here, Golu. The way that Vivid United have been playing and their form recently might give them the advantage here. It definitely will be a good game to cast over for whoever is doing it, and a good game to analyze.
Yeah, I think that will be a really good game between these two teams. And again, you got to remember, right, there's no sort of closeness value in a prediction. So whilst it might look like a very one-sided prediction for Praetorian, it means that that's how many people think Praetorian will win, not that it's going to be a blowout. And I think we're going to be in for a very, very strong game. A map apiece wouldn't surprise me at all here. But I think these two teams should be neck and neck, and it will just come down to that map ban phase. I think that map ban phase is going to be instrumental in separating these two teams. Come on, bring the spice, boys. Bring out the theme parks, bring out the skyscrapers, bring out the borders. Borders one of those ones that it hasn't changed too much since it was last in, but the changes have had quite a large impact on some of the site preferences and things like that. Is Border a map that you guys what should you take generally across the new maps, but are you fans of them? Are you trying to leave them out for the time being, or just what's the vibe you get from the guys? Is it enjoyable playing those maps?
To be honest, I think the boys enjoy playing Border because it's the same as Coastline, and they like to play as monkeys. I mean, they're really good at fragging. So I mean, Border is a frag heavy map, so we like it. But I wouldn't say we necessarily pick it. But you saw it against Vega that we dominated. I think Skyscraper and Theme Park are almost the same. In preparation-wise, we like them. I mean, we have a really large map pool with, I think it's 7, I think. In the wise of the new maps, I mean, we don't have any problems on them. We like diversity, so we like to play them.
Yeah, some of the newer maps have a more unique aesthetic when comparing to the older maps, which is good fun to see them prop up in the map pool every now and again. But, we've talked about what's happened this week. We talked about thoughts ahead of next week. Let's just get your view on the season. What are you expecting from it? Any players inside a major league that on your team or on another team that you think don't get the sort of respect or the recognition that they might deserve? Anyone that steps a bit above and beyond what's needed for their team?
To be honest, I would say as the most underrated player in the whole league, I'd say it's B13. And I mean, he has sometimes good games, but most you can see that he's going negative all the time. But what that guy puts into work within scrims and out of scrims, it's huge, and he should be respected as a player. And you could see his clutch against Vega after the pulse plant 1 second. It was really good to watch, and finally he stood up in an official, and he didn't have the nerves. So I would say he's the most underrated player at the moment, but I'm not sure because I do not follow that much of players in the league.
Yeah.
Rather, except mine. So yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. You want to support the guys, right? You always want to back yourselves in this situation, especially if you think you have what it takes to push all the way to the top. I mean, you've had some good games upcoming, which will be very big for pushing yourselves towards the top of that leaderboard. But, I want to focus now just a little bit more on yourself. you have been analyst for 7 months now. You've been doing analyst work. Now we've talked a little bit about your thoughts on players, and you mentioned P13 and the role they do in the team. What's your involvement with the team, right? As the analyst, what's your involvement with the training practice? What's your involvement with scrims? What kind of role do you have into that? Or is it more you'll give the information to the guys that they need and assist the rest of the coaching staff with enabling them, but from more of the puppeteer in the shadows?
To be honest with you, as I am an external analyst, doing most of the part of what I'm doing is doing external analytics on other teams that we will face. So for the most part, I have sheets for internal as well, but that's for our coaches.
Yeah.
And for most part of the scrims, since I'm actively playing water polo in real life, I can't be there as much as I should be. So that's why the coach's job is to have fill the sheets out for me, and then I will do the rest of the analytics for it. And that's why I'm not so hands-on with the scrims, but otherwise I'm really good friends with the boys. And as I wouldn't say I stopped playing the game as an analyst, because no one would say that they stop playing the game after they become a support staff. I'm still playing some days actively, but yeah. And otherwise, I would say I'm pretty hands-on with everything in the team that's going on. Although I'm the only foreigner in the team at the moment, they respect my advices and also respect my opinions on things.
That's the good thing about being backroom staff, being that supporting role, is the team trusts you more than themselves, and that's what I like about the analysts, the coaches. But going on to the next question here, your top 5 teams across any of the leagues that you play in. It can be Talent League or it can be any of the other leagues that you do play in.
I mean, I would say at the top we have Team Alpha. Yeah. And with that being said, I would say the next team is on our top 5 list is Praetorian as the second coming up. Next to that, I would say the other one is Raven with Turtle Esports and also the Frankfurt. One CF Frankfurt, yeah. One CF Frankfurt, I would say. These are the top 5 teams that we are most preparing of. And also, I think it's 6, and the upcoming, I would say it's Recast Gaming.
So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, as this is a 2-part question here. Your most overrated team first. What do you think is the most overrated team in this league?
At the moment, I would say the most overrated team is Goldinis, because they have Ikox in their lineup and he thinks that they are the best, but as of player, they are the best. But team-wise, I'm not sure whether they are good enough, but we will see.
A lot of individual players. And then the backup question, the follow-up question to this is, the most overrated player, in your opinion, can be from majors, can be from minor. I was going to say it might be Ikox from the way you just talked about.
Of course. I wanted to say that as well.
Oh, you're taking the easy way out, are we?
I mean, it should be Ikox the most overrated player, because everyone thinks he's a good IGL and all, but after playing with him, he's a good fragger. Don't get me wrong, and he's a good guy. But as an IGL, he's not that big of an impact for a team.
So on the other end of things, then, do you have any underrated teams that aren't being given enough respect, or maybe people aren't giving correct props to, in terms of either the major or the minor division so far this season?
I wouldn't say, to be honest, that there is any underrated teams, but in the major, I would say it's Ultrac, because they got in with a really not good score at the first game, and after that is everyone wrote them down that they're bad. Yeah. But I would say that. And in the minor, I would say it's Visu. Although they are a French Nets team, Finnish Nets team, they tend to be a pretty underrated due to the fact that they are in minor as a Nets team. So I don't know, maybe those 2.
Very quickly, before we bring this to a wrap, right? So, if people at home want to get involved with analyst work, if something they feel like they might want to give a try, what would be your advice on, firstly, what you need to be able to do for a team? But secondly, how would you go about getting involved with a team?
To be honest, first and foremost is that you need to be able to work with Excel, know the formats, know everything about it. That how can you do it? On the second hand, it's a key to have people that you know or who are analysts or external or internal. For example, for me, it was a learning curve when I met Safe or I met Huba. Safe is the current Totem analyst, and Huba is the analyst for Kowalski in NPL, and also Totem is in PG. And they are the two most influential people next to Sleepy from Team Secret. He's the ex analyst for Team Secret.
Yeah.
So these three people taught me basically almost everything that I know at the moment, and I have basically read the sheets from them. On the second hand, it's of course to find a comfortable environment for yourself, as like team-wise or how you like to work, set up your work ethic. That's the most important part, and also to have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah, I think we're also treated in the Siege community where people really do want to help other people. It's something that we see across the board, right? There's a lot of support for people who are trying to learn new things. It's wonderful to see that there's always an outreach or someone you can ask for help if you need to know where to get going. But thank you so much, for spending the time with us, and congratulations on being picked up by Laburnum Gaming. And I look forward to seeing how the future unfolds for you guys as you travel through Talent League and beyond. Remember, please check out the Talent League Discord. When Season 8 opens up, you'll have the opportunity to join as a player, but also in the meantime, if you want to join as caster, producer, observer, or in any other way on our admin staff, we'd love to have you all get involved where you can. Also, check the Twitter. We'll have all information on games coming up, stats after the matches to see how the players fared, how the teams did, and more importantly, the live notifications for our stream. Thank you so much, for joining us. Is there anything, you've been a wonderful guest for our first episode. Is there anything you'd like to say at the end here? Give a shout out to your fans, to your supporters, or just flame me for a bit, because it's probably deserved at this point.
I mean, to be honest, it's a pleasure to be the first guest of the Behind the Talent podcast. So I think I want to thank you guys for inviting me, as of course. And I mean, I want to thank my team for giving me the chance to come here.
Lovely. And I've also been joined by good friend Pyro. Pyro, it's been a lovely little chat. We've been able to break down the last week and some of what's happening next week. Anything you'd like to say to see us off, to top it out?
Just looking forward to next week. It's going to be an absolute cracker, as we've said many times before. A lot of new teams coming up, and a little bit of surprises that might happen. Hopefully, the staff predictions are close enough, So that has been us, as Golu said, as Golu has graciously sent us off here.
Lovely.
Thank you for watching Behind the Talent, and we'll see you guys for the next podcast.